Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, Vincent LaRusso and I are going to be discussing our experience at the final Kiss shows in New York City this past weekend. Before I say let's jump in and let's get started, I just want to take a moment to say thank you for all the fans of the show who stopped me over the last few days and told me how much you guys really enjoyed it. I really appreciated hearing all of your kind words, and I have to say, you made a great weekend even that much better. So thank you guys all very, very much. I also want to take a moment and say thank you to Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Peter Criss, Ace Frehley, Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent, Mark St. John, Bruce Culich, Eric Singer, and of course, Tommy Thayer as well. Thank you guys all for such incredible memories. What an incredible 50-year journey this has been. All right, lots to cover in this episode, lots to talk about. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today, I have with me my buddy, comrade, perhaps feeling a little blue and sad this morning, Mr. Vince LaRusso. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. Yeah, maybe didn't get enough sleep, as I should have.
Yep.
But I got mixed feelings this morning, I guess you would say.
Yeah, and we're going to get into all of that, obviously.
Yeah.
So we are recording this the morning right after the final two Kiss shows at Madison Square Garden. And you and I attended the show together last night. But before we even start talking about the show and all of that, we did a pre-final shows podcast, I guess about 10 days ago, right? Was the last time you and I got together. It was actually probably the last time we spoke about Kiss was that, because last night after the show, you had to go, you drove home, I jumped on the train. So we never really even had much of a chance to talk about the show and everything afterwards last night. So this is going to be fresh for us. I'm kind of excited to hear what some of the things you have to say, because it'll be all new to me as well. But before we talk about the show, the last time we met, there was like 5 or 6 shows left in the tour. And, we were talking about how, it was kind of surprising, sad, unbelievable, not surprising, but, sad and unbelievable that it was actually, the end was here. And I remember one of the things I said was that, always for the last few years was a worry of mine that, hey, would they actually make it to the final show? You never know. They're up there in age. Somebody can get sick. Somebody could, God forbid, pass away or whatever. And then I think the day I release that podcast episode, Paul Stanley announces that Kiss announces that they're canceling the Ottawa concert because Paul Stanley's sick. And then they cancel Toronto, then they cancel Knoxville. I actually had somebody reach out to me and said that we were the jinx. So because I had mentioned that I put the curse on them, and the timing of me releasing that and then that show getting canceled was kind of a little bit uncanny. Was there during that time, obviously, thank God, I'll say only had the flu and was better and was able to recover. Was there ever any time during that you were like, these last shows may not happen?
Nah, I got to be honest, I didn't really worry about it. I thought of it as being a possibility, but I just figured, you know why I thought, when I found out it was Paul, and I just know that, first of all, he's going to get the utmost. I mean, there was that picture of him with the
IV,
IV bag. These guys are going to get the best and quickest medical assistance, and he's in such good shape. He works out, he rides his bike, he does all. So knowing that, and the clean life he lives, I guess I kind of figured he'd recover quickly. So, and quite honestly, even if it was any of the other members, I probably would have felt the same because, they've been doing this a very long time. They have to keep in shape to wear all of the, the costumes and all that stuff and the movements and stuff. So, but yeah, I wasn't worried about it. And it's kind of my nature to try to always to look to the positive and just be like, nah, it's going to be fine. We're going to be good. It's meant to be. It's meant to be, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really.
And the other thing too was I'm sorry.
Yeah, go
even if the last show was canceled, it's the last show. So I always figured that could have been rescheduled. They could have, where it's harder to do them when they're kind of in the middle. They're not going to jump ahead to do the last show and then say, oh, let's make up the Ottawa show. It's just
and that's exactly where I wanted to go and just adjust for a moment, because I know people who were supposed to go to the Ottawa show, the Toronto show, the Knoxville show. And I feel horrible. And I for all the fans out there to watch our show here that we're doing today, I do. My heart bleeds for you guys that missed your final show. If you were in the city the last 3-4 days, like you and I were, you understand that the New York concerts were much more than just concerts. There was a whole event in the city, and we'll talk a little bit about all of that as well. What I'm about to say is very easy Monday morning quarterbacking, but they probably should have left a gap between the final shows outside of New York and the final shows in New York, just in case there was bad weather, somebody gets sick like Paul did, or whatever reason for cancellation. They would have had some time to reschedule Toronto or Ottawa or Knoxville or whatever. But there was just no dates in the schedule for them to. I think it was probably logistically impossible for them to get the stage, let's just say, from Baltimore to Toronto back to New York. There just wasn't enough. They didn't leave any buffer in the schedule. Again, Monday morning quarterback, hindsight's 2020. They maybe should have, just in case they had to cancel something. But it's just really, if you were in the city the last few days, that this was a much bigger thing than just 2 final concerts. And, again, my heart bleeds for the people who missed those 3 shows. And like my wife said to me, oh, Mike, you'd be so upset if it was your concert. I said, I understand that. But it's just, I feel bad for the people who missed their show. But sadly, Kiss is not going to reschedule those ever, unfortunately, for those fans.
Yeah. And just so that we're, sensitive to other people's feelings, when we get excited about what we got to see last night, no way we're trying to rub it in anybody's faces. Agreed. That, so just want to say that.
Agreed. The only thing I'll say is I'm thankful, at least I believe all 3 cities, maybe not Knoxville, but I think Toronto especially, they had played previously on the End of the Road tour. And I know it's not the same as when you have tickets for the last couple of shows, but like you said, we're not looking to rub anything in. My heart bleeds for the people who missed their shows. It's very unfortunate. Thankfully, from a human side, like you said, Paul was able to recover, do the shows, but more importantly, able to recover, and seems like he's totally fine now. So that's, like Paul said, he made a comment that, he wasn't sure if this was the end for him, and I have a feeling he's being a little dramatic over there, right? But we don't know how sick he was.
Well, I knock on glass because I don't have wood in front of me. I've never had the flu, but if anybody's had flu or COVID, anything, from everything I know, it does feel like, oh my God, the end is near when you feel that sick. So, but the other thing is too, this was always an option, but they did have the pay-per-view. So those people who, I don't know if they were going to do the pay-per-view anyways, but at the very least, they got to see the pay-per-view. Hopefully, if they wanted to see the last show. Yeah, it's not live, but at least to kind of see what the last shows were about.
Absolutely. I agree. Now, also leading up to the shows, and we spoke about this on the last time, we didn't think that Ace or Peter or Bruce were going to be there. I thought maybe Bruce, right? And it started during the week. Yes, exactly. Bruce coming on stage, doing his little dance, right? It started during the week with Ace Frehley saying he never got an invite. And, people, I think, sometimes wonder with Ace and with Peter, but maybe even more so with Ace, how much of what they're saying is just, talk in the media and how much is real. But Ace said he wasn't invited. Then it followed up with Bruce saying he wasn't invited. And then once Bruce said he wasn't invited, I was like, oh, wow. If Bruce is saying that, I 100% believe it. I don't think he's BSing. And then Peter released a statement as well saying he wasn't invited. Very classy statement. And we'll talk about that in a moment. I felt Bruce seemed a little hurt that he wasn't invited to the shows. Did you see some of his comments online?
Yeah, I did. I see the official statement. I didn't see anything more than that. Is there something else that was more than that?
Yeah, I guess a few days beforehand, he just made a quick comment, hey, I'm not going to be at the New York shows. No, I wasn't invited. And it was just like,
That I saw.
Yeah, I'm totally reading between the lines, but I was like, he seems hurt to me. He's been such a loyal soldier to them, and I don't know anything. He has not said a word to me about this, right? So I know nothing more than what everybody else has seen online, but I just got the impression Bruce seems a little hurt that he wasn't invited, and I'll say justifiably so. Even if he wasn't going to perform with them, how does he not get up on stage and bow with them, or at the bare minimum? And we'll talk about the fact they did interviews before the show last night. He could have been over there with Desmond Child talking about his time in the 80s. I just felt like Bruce deserved to be in the building last night.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I mean, you remember I said to you about, how the show is set up and everything's it's all scripted, with the timing and such. And that's why I really believed it wasn't going to happen. But, I said something maybe about breaking out a script, or there's the part where Tommy and Paul are doing these little guitar trade-off things, which to me is totally like that's time right there that they could have done with any of these guys. There were certainly spots. Me personally, I mean, I don't need to hear a drum solo. I don't need to, at that last show, I mean, I could have done without a drum solo. I could have done without the Paul and Tommy thing. The Gene thing, obviously, his thing is very specialized because he does the blood or does the I don't want to remove that from the show because that's such an iconic thing, But there were certainly opportunities. There's a lot of time during a Kiss show that there's not music being played, quite honest,
Yeah, well, absolutely.
So, it's an opportunity missed, but I certainly wasn't surprised. How they could have all done it, there's so many ways you could have fantasized about the last show, bringing certain people who have helped them through the years on the stage, everyone taking a bow. I mean, there's all these different things that could have been done, but I think maybe they just thought it's the four of us. I know it's not Ace Frehley, and I know it's not Peter Criss. However, these two guys have been in the band for 20 plus years,
2 decades plus,
right? Yeah. So, this is Kiss, and it's in its form. And it's just going to be the four of us on the stage. We're going to start and we're going to end with the four of us. And maybe we haven't gotten to the part of how the show ended and what followed with that. I think, that kind of goes in line with that too. Now, that being said, people would have been, I think, very excited if they would have seen these guys obviously come up on the stage. So
yeah, absolutely. I loved, I don't know if you saw, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Peter Criss released the statement through a radio station in Toledo, actually had reached out to him. Did you see Peter's statement?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a little quote over here from it because I thought it was so good. First off, I'll say total class on Peter Criss's part, for all of the nonsense that goes on between the original members. I thought he handled his statement so perfectly. And I love the way he starts it. There's so many glorious years right off the top. I'm like, all right, I love this. Some glorious years, right? And he talks about the four of them creating it. He thanks the Kiss Army. He does say he's disappointed that he, Ace, Bruce, and Vinny, he actually called out also, weren't invited. But he's like, I've lived a blessed life. I am truly blessed. There's not much more a musician or an artist could ask for. God has blessed all of us. The end is now here, and it's just like he seems, he even says, like I'm at peace with everything. And I'm just like, good for Pete. He acknowledges the final show. He says he wasn't asked to come out to do anything, but he seems okay with it. He's like, I'm happy in life. I'm good. I'll actually say seeing Peter's comments put a smile on my face is the best way for me to say it.
Yeah. No, it was classy. It was classy, and it would not be something that you would get from Ace Frehley, unfortunately. In that sense. So,
absolutely. So then, obviously leading up to the concerts, there was a lot going on in the city. Kiss made the announcement last week that they were going to take over New York City. And well, I'll say this, it's impossible to take over New York City when there's a gazillion things going on in the city. Even just yesterday when I was there, I went to see Rockefeller Center, the Tree, and the mobs of people, and nobody was there for Kiss. But saying that, when you were around the Garden area and around the Kiss pop-up store and all of that, you did get the sense like, hey, Kiss was quote unquote taking over the city. There's a lot of Kiss fans all over the place. I had people stopping me in the street just saying, is Kiss playing a concert at Madison Square Garden this weekend? Who clearly weren't Kiss fans because there was just Kiss t-shirts all over the place, right? When I was waiting online to get into the pop-up store, there was hundreds of people waiting online to get in. We were online for a couple of hours. And at one point, a car stops and he rolls down his window. It's like, what's going on over here? You know, obviously no idea, but you can see something's going on. So, you know, I say out to him, I'll tell you, it's a Kiss store over here. They're selling Kiss merchandise. The guy rolls his eyes, makes his face like, whatever, and rolls back up his window. And some of us on the line saw his reaction. It was hilarious, you know, but the point being, you definitely didn't need to be a Kiss fan to see something was going on in the city, right? And to me, it was kind of like a cool vibe having these people from all around the world coming in and waiting, whether it's for the merch at the garden, the pop-up store, the pizzeria, and we'll talk about all of that stuff a little bit. But you know, to me, I know you didn't really do much of that stuff, whereas I did. But to me, that's kind of what added to the whole weekend, is just, you know, seeing all of the stuff that they were doing in the city.
Yeah, and you know, you just remember that was kind of, I want to say, almost like last minute we found out about that. Yes. It wasn't like they had this plan for months. So they must have had a plan. You can't organize and do all that stuff and, you know, and do it last minute. So
exactly,
it's kind of cool in the way that they, you know, when they announced it and such, you know, I wonder if people would have made, who travel from, you know, other parts of the country or states or whatever, would have made different arrangements knowing that this stuff was days earlier, because maybe some people came, you know, arrived yesterday. I'm just curious of that, you know. That's the only thing, that if they had it in months in advance to know. But
absolutely, you know. And look, I'll just show some of the little trinkets, right? So, I mean, they were doing things like, you'd see Kiss newspaper, you know, Kiss Day and Kiss 1973, 2023. So, you know, there was these newspapers that they were handing out every day with Kiss on it. There was lines of people waiting for it. So it was really, you know, some cool stuff that they were doing, without a doubt. You know, so, but yeah, and I waited 2 hours to get into the pop-up store.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how many people were there. But it was good stuff. Definitely good stuff.
What did you wind up acquiring in the pop-up store?
That's exactly what I was just going to say. So see that?
Yeah.
I purchased a flag, a banner that was for sale over there. It's kind of like a throwback to the 70s, like when, if you were at a baseball game, there's like a pennant, like I think of going to Yankee Stadium as a kid, and they had like the different flags. So I thought that was like really cool, and a couple of T-shirts, and that was it. Yeah, I didn't go too crazy. You know, there was a lot of stuff to choose from. There was lots of different T-shirts to choose from. But I didn't go too crazy, actually. Even though in fact, I said to my brother, who was waiting with me, I said, you know, we're waiting online for 2 hours, and there's a chance I go in the store and walk out with nothing. And somebody who's online.
Your brother was online with you?
Yeah. My brother my brother was a trooper. He came a couple of days with me into the city and just kind of like hung out, just kind of, you tell me what to do, we're going to do it. And he kind of, whatever I said to do, he did with me. But somebody online heard me say that to my brother, and the guy turned to me. He was like, you're going to wait all this time and get nothing? I'm like, yeah, it's possible. And I just want to give a shout out. You know, while I was waiting online, there were some fans that watched the show and you know, was aware of you and I from the UK who flown in, and it was so cool just to hang out and talk with them for 2 hours or whatever. And that, again, that's part of the fun of these things, is just seeing people and you're meeting people and all of that. And you know, just that, to me, it made the 2 hours go by very fast. You know, you're just hanging out, talking with people from different parts of the world. There's a couple of people, you know, from different states in the United States online over there. And it was just, to me, it's kind of cool.
Oh, I mean, well, that's what being, I don't know. I mean, you could probably debate this with some other people, but that's what really, truly being a Kiss fan is all about. Right. You know, that connection we have for so many years. Yeah, I mean, are there Rolling Stone fans? Are there Who fans? Are there fanatics? I'm not trying to minimize all that, but I think because of Kiss and the makeup and kind of like what they created, you know, a market that didn't exist, or you know, and just certain things on stage that they never did, it just kind of, you know, it just makes it that much more special in a lot of ways. You know, nobody was buying Who color forms that didn't exist, you know.
No.
You know, stuff like that, you know. So as a kid, when you had those things, you know, jigsaw puzzles or whatever, you know, that stuff, you know, as I remember as a kid, like I had to have that stuff.
Agreed. No, and you look, the ironic part for me is when one of the days when my brother and I went to get one of the newspapers, we didn't realize that the stand was going to be right by the Empire State Building. So we walked over there. We wait online we had to wait probably for close to a half hour for the newspaper. And we were wondering what the hell, like there's all these people online. They're not even handing them out. They're just making us all stand there, even though the carts are there and they're like arguing, should the cart be at this angle or that angle? So should it face this direction? And we're like, who cares? Just give us the damn newspapers. Let us go, right?
Yeah.
And it got to the point that I said to my brother, I'm going to see if they're handing them out. And if they're not, let's just leave. I don't need to wait online all day for a newspaper. So I go over and I can see they're just on to hand them out. So we get to the front of the line. My brother and I get ours. And as soon as they do that, they close the line. And we're like, what the hell? And we're like, wait a second. I know what's going on here. Kiss is in the Empire State Building. And lo and behold, within a minute of us getting the newspapers, they happen to come out. They're leaving the Empire State Building. So talk about just being right place, right time. It was just like I went from being on the verge of leaving the line to being 2 feet away from them, leaving the Empire State Building. The guy to my left, I don't know who he was, took a picture with Tommy Thayer, right? That's how close we were to them or whatever. So it was kind of like, this is unexpected, but it's kind of like a cool moment, unexpected to happen. It's not like I camped out there or whatever. It just so happened to be right place, right time,
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that because I saw the footage of them leaving the building, and I did watch like the little press conference they did and the lever and the whole thing. And did they get a key to the city? What did they get?
I think they announced that it was
Kiss Day.
Kiss Day in the city.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then, I ended up going to the city late in the day that day, and actually was in the city when they were doing the lights on the Empire State Building at 7:00 that night. And, I know a lot of Kiss fans have seen the video online of the projections on the Empire State Building and all of that. And I am here to ruin the magic. So if you still believe Santa Claus and Superman and all of that, here's where you want to fast forward for a minute and not listen to what I'm about to say. All those projections you saw on that video, fake news. Okay. I was there in person and there was lights flashing. There was nothing, zero, zilch that said Kiss. There was no Kiss logo. There were no Kiss pictures. I think all the way up on the top of the antenna, there might have been little tiny logos that you could not see really from the street. You could tell that there was something on it. It was cool. You were supposed to listen to Rock and Roll All Night on like an app or whatever while they were doing the lights. They weren't in sync with each other. So you were just watching lights flash while listening to Rock and Roll All Night, not in sync with each other. The video online looked absolutely cool. Absolutely cool. Not what you saw in person. So sorry if I just ruined the magic for some people. It was still cool. I personally, I think it's great, the video that they put out, right? I think it's just, it adds to some of the excitement and fun, but it wasn't 100% what you saw in the city. Just wanted to say that.
Okay. All right.
So that was some of the pre-first show stuff, right? Obviously, I went to the first show. You decided you just wanted to be there for the last one. You felt it would make it a little bit more special. And it's funny because yesterday I ran into somebody in the city, said the exact same thing you did. I was like, did you go to the first show? He's like, no, I feel like it's more special if I'm just there for the last one. I'm not kind of seeing the same thing back-to-back nights. So at any point when the first show was going on Friday night, did you think, hey, I wish I went?
No. Even seeing everybody go in there and seeing the posts. Yeah. No, I'm glad with my decision. I really wanted that one last experience, not two last experience. I know a lot of people, and I really totally respect this. We know, like yourself. I mean, I'm so surprised you didn't go to Bruntamore. I told you he's going to Brun. I said I was shocked when you said, because I know the way you are, And when you said you didn't go to Baltimore, but I know of friends who did go.
Me too.
Actually, Billy, who I play in the Kiss Unmasked cover band, I saw before the show last night. He went. So, and I think he went to the show Friday night also. I'm pretty sure he did. So all the last 3 shows. But I totally respect that. You want to get as much of it in your ears and your veins, as you can. This is it. Kenny Loggins is singing "This Is It," and this is it.
What
Michael
about
McDonald.
Huey Lewis?
If this is it, no, we don't know. No, you see, there's a difference.
Okay, there's a difference.
Huey Lewis says, "If this is it," where Kenny Loggins is saying, "This is it." You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay, yes, there is a difference.
I'm pretty sure this is it. I don't think if this is it, is this the last show? No, I think this is it. You know.
Okay. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that if you're a Kenny Loggins guy or a Huey Lewis guy. So, yeah, look, I was excited to be there Friday night. I went with a group of 8 people, friends, family members, my wife, my daughter, friends I've had, for decades. And so to me, that was fun. Again, that's just part of the whole experience, like we're just saying, so I have, I could not be there for both garden shows. The Baltimore thing, I went back and forth in my mind. Do I want to take a half day of work? Do I want to do that drive? At the end of the day, I had to be in work for the next morning, and I did not feel like getting home at 3 a.m. That was just, it's like, nah. And Wednesday night, I'm sitting on my couch. It's like 10 o'clock. I'm watching Survivor with my wife, and I turned to her and I said, I'm so glad I'm not in Baltimore right now. She's like, really? Yeah. I said, yeah. I made the right decision here. And like you said, I know people who went, but just with everything going on in my life, I couldn't right now at the moment. So no regrets there.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah.
So, the first night show, I thoroughly enjoyed. I was thrilled. And we'll talk about your feeling when the show started last night. But when the show started and you hear the announcement, I'm like, that's when it hit me like, wow, this is it. After this weekend, I'm not hearing this anymore. And those first couple of songs, both nights for me, I kind of felt like this overwhelming feeling like, wow, this is really going to be coming to an end. As the show continued, I kind of just started to feel like I was at another concert. But for both nights when the show started, I was like, this is it. I'm not going to hear, hey, New York, you wanted the best, you got the best. I'm not going to hear this anymore after this.
Yeah.
What do you think as you were at the show last night and it's starting and getting ready for all of that?
Well, the funny thing is, I had heard that they were going to start probably around 8:45, and just getting there last night was a nightmare. Now, admittingly, we left later than we wanted to, and certainly I went to the last time I was there is when we went to go see the Who, and I parked there. I think we probably even ate beforehand, if I remember correctly. So we got there nice, super early. But man, I was like, is this traffic and this crazy? I mean, it was literally, one point I was 4 blocks away, and it said like 9 minutes to where the garage was, and in like 35 minutes later, I'm still trying to get to it was just deadlock, and I'm just like, what the hell? And I'm like, obviously the COVID effect is gone. There's so many people. I mean, it was crazy. So get in there late. I wanted to see Billy. Thankfully I did get to see Billy and Lisa. We talked to them very briefly. And then so I get to the seat. You're there with your daughter, and then I said I gotta go to I had to go to the bathroom. So I run to the bathroom. I said I'm gonna get a beverage, and I'm online here. I'm like, don't like running, to try to get to the seat because I know how long rock and roll is, So thankfully I got to the seat in time. So there was all that, build up to get, so I had all this like pent up, so it was a little bit different for me because I was so nervous because I wanted to be there for the synthesizer. Right. So, but then it starts, and you just want to kind of capture it on your camera. The camera phone, or phone camera. What is it? A camera phone? I guess it's a phone camera, right?
Phone camera.
Right? Yeah. So, and yeah, it starts, and it just starts to feel like, and I'm not really thinking so much about it. But there was a point, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a point of the show, Paul started talking about certain things about his parents, and I know he had done that the night before. And then there was a certain point, I'm trying to remember, and I kind of was talking to you, and I looked over at you, and your eyes looked a little glassy.
Really?
Like a little glassy. Yeah. And I was like,
well, I have a glass eye now.
Oh, is that it? Yeah. So I was thinking, like, I said, is he being moved by what's going on and what's being said? I wasn't sure, So, and then, they do have a moment where they start talking more towards the end, or now actually when they were doing that, like I was saying, did they do this last night?
Right. It was right after Beth. Right. It was after Beth.
Yeah. And they were doing all this stuff. Right. Then it really hit me. And then all of a sudden I was like,
Yeah. So you got a little emotional there too.
Yeah. It really hit me. And, thankfully my girlfriend's like, it's going to be okay.
Right.
It'll be okay. I'm like, I was like, it's good, But yeah, it really struck me. And I was, kind of figured, and just knowing the way I am, I kind of figured that was going to happen, you know, because man, these are boys, you know what I mean? I mean, all of a sudden, you know, flashback, heart attack, it flashback, and it's like, you know, I just the memories, like that specific, very specific memory. And I've mentioned this before, PS 163 lunchroom, and you playing Tomorrow and Tonight on your chest, you know, doing the drums, and you singing it. I just, all of a sudden, all these things start coming back.
This is
to
like
me,
literally we're like 7 years old.
Yeah. You know, getting the Kiss the first solo album for Christmas, and all of a sudden, I'm like, holy shit! It all hits you at once. Like, why these guys and this music is just so important, you know? And it was interesting because on the way home, my girlfriend was like, you know, what made you want to play music? You know, what was the thing? You know, and besides just growing up in a household where music was always being played, and I was very blessed that, you know, my dad would teach me and let me listen, and I stare at album covers as my earliest memories, maybe 3-4 years old, is sitting with him blasting music and just staring at album covers. You know, this is before Kiss. You know, that's certainly an influence. But, you know, I always say this before, Fonz was my first idol, and then it was Peter Criss. And once I got to know Kiss, that was really what made me want to. That's why we were planning to go on the corner with our baseball bats or wiffle ball bats, and we were going to put on a show and a concert. That was like what made me want to play music and be a musician. So ultimately, that's another thing that factored into this whole thing. It's like, you know, what I did the night before playing the show was really, there's a direct line to these guys, and the influence is there. And as a matter of fact, the night before, I played 3 Kiss songs. Well, one technically an Ace Frehley song, a New York Groove, but still under the Kiss umbrella, you know? So it just really just all came kind of full circle for me. And I think that's why I had that emotional moment, you know?
To me, that's been one of the cool things. Also, I've seen a bunch of musicians posting comments online about the final Kiss shows and all that. And, you know, you've seen comments from people that you would expect. You see comments from people you wouldn't expect. I think it was the touring guitarist from Hall & Oates band, Elliot, I forget his last name. My apologies. But
he's from ET.
Yeah, exactly. He's from ET. He put out a comment yesterday saying that he grew up with Kiss, and, you know, while it might not have influenced him, like his style of playing, he grew up listening to the albums. He mentioned that, you know, Hall & Oates got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame the same year as Kiss, and I'm just like, no, here's a guy that, you know, touring musician for Hall & Oates that you wouldn't expect to be saying influenced by Kiss, but there it is, you know. So it just makes you realize, you know, to your point, that you're making just the music and the influence it's had on people is I don't want to say second to none, because you have, you know, bands like the Beatles and the Stones and what that, you know, Led Zeppelin influenced so many, but it's far and few between how many bands have influenced as many people as Kiss have. You know, it's just, and to think that that's over now, it's something like I still have to like pinch myself a little bit and say like, wow, we really saw the last Kiss show last night. Now I want to go back to, you were talking about the beginning. I just want to go back to that, because you were out talking to people and saying hi to people, like you was saying. I had done that for 2-3 days. So by 8:20, 8:30, my daughter and I were in our seats. I was like, I don't want to miss the start. I want to be here for, even if they're dimming one light bulb at a time, I want to see every light bulb get dim before the show starts, right? Yeah. And they were doing interviews with different people. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see Desmond Childs was there last night?
I didn't. I saw the kids were, you know, Nick and Sophie, and Sophie and Evan. And Evan, yeah, I did see that.
And they brought up Tommy Thayer's daughter, who, you know, Tommy Thayer just found out he had a daughter a few years ago. They brought her up also, and all the kids were really great. You know, you could see they have a mutual respect for each other. Nick was very complimentary towards Evan, and, you know, his band opened up the shows last night, and I want to talk about that from him. But I thought this was hilarious. You know, the interviewer asked the kids, you know, hey, you know, do you believe it's actually ended tonight? Can you know, what does it mean to you? And Nick says, I actually thought it ended in 1999. I was like, what?
That's great.
Oh my God, I can't believe he just said that, and I don't think he meant to say like anything derogatory. I think he was just being a little funny and kind of like, hey, I went through this once in 99. I was old enough to remember that. So I think he was just trying to say, hey, I've kind of gone through these emotions a little bit. I'm a little bit grounded with this. But when he said, I thought it ended in 1999, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe Nick Simmons just said that. It was actually very funny.
Yeah.
Oh man, but that was I liked that they did that. They showed an interview with Paul Stanley, an interview with Gene Simmons, and then an interview with both Tommy and Eric, as well. I thought that was a nice little touch before the show began.
Yeah.
Not quite the documentary like you and I said would be cool, but if they weren't going to do a documentary, maybe this was like second best.
Yeah. Unfortunately, once again, would have been cool even if they didn't on the same stage together, if they would have had Peter Criss or he's really come talk. But these guys, Vinnie Vincent, other than Bruce Culich, they're really not on good terms to have that kind of like cuddly, warm, fuzzy feelings. It just doesn't exist. And but I'm glad they did that. That was a nice idea to do that. Made part of being the last show special, something different. And I was also very happy because I did see them on the first leg, I guess you would say, of the final tour or the end of the road tour. And I was glad to see there were certain things. Because I asked you, I said, were these lasers here the last time?
Right.
And the back screens were really impressive. And they had these two, the side screens even look more impressive. Like the definition on those screens were incredible. So it was nice to see they had some new added touches. And I even asked you at one point, I said, didn't Paul usually go back to the stage during I Was Made, or whatever? And that was kind of cool. Like, he spent more time there. And I swear, I told you last night, I would sever a pinky toe for that red Iceman guitar, the Sparkle Iceman. When he took that guitar, I was like, oh my God, how much does that fucking guitar cost? Because I will sell,
Well, you might have to sell the entire rack behind you, but I know. I do think you can buy one.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like $15,000 or some crazy.
It may be some crazy price like
I'm
that.
Just like, please,
you might have to sell the rack behind you, but you could get one.
I was like, please, Ibanez, reissue that. Oh, what a beautiful color! I had never seen that before.
It is,
and because I've seen like the gold one, the silver one. When he came out with that, I was like, Christ, that was impressive.
Yeah, no, I like the guitars that he's had over the last few years.
So and I saw he had a Gibson one too. He had a Gibson, the Flying V, which was. Because I know Gene, they've come out with a signature Gene Simmons under the Gibson umbrella. And from what I know, Paul hasn't done anything with Gibson for many years. He's been with Washburn, obviously Ibanez, Silvertone. I might be missing one other brand that he was involved with for a while. So that was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, I know a lot of people wanted Bruce Culich to open the shows, and I'll raise my hand and say, me too. To me, that would have been just perfect. Bruce and his band could have come out, done a 40-minute set of Kiss songs from the 80s that Kiss is not represented in their set list. It would have been a nice way to include Bruce, not necessarily even have to have him on stage with the band. Certainly, the big Kiss fans would all know exactly who Bruce was. His band would have knocked it out of the park. So there's definitely, but I never expected that to happen, but it would have been nice if it did. And I say all of that because I totally get, as a parent with two kids, how awesome it must have been for Paul to be like, hey, my last time I'm playing the Garden, my son's playing the Garden with me. And it's his first time. And as a father and son, that moment for the two of them is probably something they'll talk about for the rest of their lives together. Evan will be like, hey, I played the Garden with you your last time. And, like Evan said during the show last night, hey, you guys all call him Paul. I call him Dad, and yes, as a fan, I wish it was Bruce Culich opening up that show. But quite honestly, if I was Paul Stanley personally, I might have made the same decision and had my son open the show. And I know that that's not the right thing to say as a fan, but just as a parent, and that's got to be such a freaking cool feeling as a parent, and even as the son, to be like, hey, I opened up my dad's final show with the Garden.
But it does open the question because Nick Simmons for years had bands and he was doing that, but I guess he's just not involved in any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah, I guess not.
Because I'm just wondering if he was like, in some ways, man, that would have been cool if I would have had my band, if he's even doing that anymore, or I haven't any sort of being like envy of, you know,
I
Paul's
didn't.
son,
So we were talking about the interview they did before the shows, and Nick was very complimentary about Evan's talent, and just, you know, I got no sense of, you know, feeling jealous or envy at all. I got the impression like Nick looks at Evan and says, "Man, that's a kid." What did he say? He goes, "I'm glad I don't have to lie about the amount of how good you are or whatever because of how much talent you have. I'm glad I don't have to lie about it." You know, he said something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but it seemed genuine and from the heart. And I know Sophie has done things, but as well, and you know, she's got some songs I think have multi-million streams online, but it's more from what I remember, like EMI dance type music would not be the type of stuff that would fit in opening up for Kiss, whereas Evan's music was straightforward rock music, you know. So you know, yes, I wish Bruce opened the shows, but there was something I'm sure kind of cool for Paul and Evan that they had that moment that they'll take with them for the rest of their life.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
So I mean, we spoke a little bit about the show. Like I said, to me, the most emotional part was the start. Obviously, Kiss fans were hoping a different set list, surprises, whatever. I'll say this, and I'd like to get your thoughts. While I'm there in that moment, they could have friggin' played, I don't know, Secretly Cruel 20 times in a row, and I probably would have enjoyed it just the same. You forget the fact that it's a deep cut, right? But almost what they were playing didn't matter. I did jokingly say to my daughter a few times during the night when Paul was like, "I got a question for all you people. I got a question." And he must have had 10,000 questions last night. So I turned to her a few times. Is he going to say, "Do you guys want to hear Strutter?" Do you guys? But I was doing that as a joke. I knew that wasn't going to be the question, right? But you know, in terms of set list, while you're there and in that moment, and like every song they're playing, they're doing Shout It Out Loud. I'm like, I'm never going to hear them perform this again. And then they're doing Zeus. I'm like, I'm never going to hear them perform this again. And even the last few songs, I started counting down 5 songs to go, 4 songs to go. You know, in some ways, it almost made it easier getting to the end because I knew the end was coming because I knew what to expect. But were you at all hoping that there'd be like something different set list wise?
Of course, but I knew it wasn't going to be. Right. You know, I think the one thing that nags me a little bit is, you know, the encore choice of "Do You Love Me." I don't know. It's just always is not. And you know what? I thoroughly enjoyed it last night. I will say that in the moment because I know, like you said,
because you're in that moment, right?
Right. But I mean, you know, Strutter's like the first Kiss album. Like I'm like, how does that song not be played tonight? I just don't. You know, that's the
agreed.
Again, it didn't take away from the night. But definitely there were certain songs I was kind of hoping for, but you know, Making Love was cool because they hadn't done it the last time around, you know. So we did get to hear that. But you know, then again, I understand like why they do a Say Yeah and stuff like that. They're trying to cover all their bases, trying to cover something that, you know, Tommy and Eric both played on probably to give them, you know, because and I'll get to this point probably towards the end when we start how the show ends. But it's almost like it's very clear now. Like it's like Tommy and Eric are more the faces of Kiss than Peter and A-Star. Yep. And we'll get to that, you know, where I'm going with that. But so I understand why they you know want to do that, and it's a good audience participation. But
and I'm going to say this, I'm probably in the minority. I love that song live.
Yeah, it's a great song.
It's such a great concert song. I'm not saying it's the greatest song they've ever written. I Still You Love is far superior to Say Yeah, but it's a great. I thoroughly enjoy. I have 10 toes every time they do that song live, and I know I'm in the minority.
Yeah, you know the one thing, and you were funny when I said that. You know, I remember there being one time, and I've never been to like a a One Direction concert or whatever these where I'm sure the girls and everyone is screaming. And the closest thing I ever went to a show where I was like, wow, people are fucking, was like Def Leppard, like during their whatever tour it was. I think it was like 89 or 90, you know,
Hysteria.
And the night and it was at the Garden, and I
think you saw them in the round. I think it was Hysteria. If I remember your concert right.
What's that?
I said I think it was the Hysteria tour. If I remember your concert right.
Yeah, as you normally do. But like I was like, I thought the crowd would be like more, and you're like, that's because we're all fucking old, you know what I mean? Exactly. I thought they'd be more into it. You're like, it's because it's all older crowd. And or maybe it was just people were just soaking it all in. I don't know. Not that the fans weren't into it, whatever, but I thought it'd be a little bit more, you know. And they did give these things, you know, these
the bracelet,
which was a cool idea. But I thought like like there'd be some sort of direction on what to, like, oh, everyone on the right, put your arm up or something like that.
Right.
You know, I'm sure that's what they could do with these things. But again, it was obviously more so like a last minute thing to do. And their show was planned as such. And they probably just, you know, just coordinated with the music. I would see how they would flash, which was all cool. It was trust me, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But it was funny because when the show was over, the things were still blinking.
Yeah.
And then when I went to bed, it was still blinking. I'm like,
well, that's because Gene, every time it blinks, he's charging you $10 for your,
of course,
your excitement and enjoyment.
Yeah. And I did see, I guess whoever was who invented these or the idea, he's like, it's not a GPS device.
Right.
We're not tracking you. It's, you know, because I can see how people are like, I don't want to wear where this thing is going to track where I am.
Yeah.
Everything is kind of like that these days, you know?
So true. So true. No, I thought it was a cool thing. We saw them on Friday. So, you know, I didn't say
it's a souvenir. It's a free souvenir.
It's a free, right. There's not many things in life for free.
And
right?
It does say December 2nd.
Yep.
So this is the only thing I have, unfortunately, or fortunately, from, you know, merchandise or I'm hoping, because there was this mad rush to get there. They were pushing people out basically because they're doing construction in the garden. So things were very narrow and you had to kind of go around. But I'm kind of hoping, like when I got this shirt, which was for the garden the first time around.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that they'll have them online. Like that's how I purchased this when I missed out the first time because they sold out. Remember, they were just like all gone. So I'm hoping, like, listen, I'm sure they didn't sell every shirt, and I'm sure they get sent back to someplace. So I'd like to get a T-shirt from the last, you know, from the last show.
Yeah, they had T-shirts, some that was specific to the individual show. So they had one T-shirt that was labeled December 1st, another one that was December 2nd. So they did have a show specific to last night. And then they also had shirts that was specific to the two shows together. So like I'm wearing one right now that was, and it says on it, I think, you know, December 1st and December 2nd, you know, so, but then there were shirts that was specific to each one. So, and I know that, like you said, there was definitely still some around and some available at the end of the night. How much, I don't know, but I'm sure some of that stock will end up online. You would think. Yeah.
And if it doesn't, nothing's going to take away from actually being at the show. No T-shirt's going to make up for that, or however I'm trying to, you know, say this.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm trying to look at it, but I told you I bought the flag at the store. I'm looking around at what I have. I bought 2 T-shirts. You didn't buy the tour book, right?
No, I mean, I think the first round I got the tour book.
Right. No, they had tour books there for the weekend that it literally is like engraved on the front cover. It says, you know, Madison Square Garden, December 1st, December 2nd. The contents are, I think, pretty much the same inside. There might be small changes in the photos.
So I was talking to somebody, I think yesterday, and they were saying, oh, you're going to get this, or you're going to get there, or you're going to go, you know. And I just said, you know, as I've gotten older, the merchandise and the limited edition LPs and I'm not taking away anybody who collects this stuff, but I'm looking right to my right here and I see my Kiss solo albums 4 box set, and as nice as it is to have that, you know, it just I just don't have the desire to collect all these things anymore as I've gotten older. But so I think that's why I wasn't like, oh, I got to get to the pop-up store and get all this, get all that, get all this. You know, I love that they make that available for people, and the
pop-up store had like a little, like an exhibit type thing in the front of it. They had things, you know, pictures on the wall, and
I saw that, which is nice.
And they had mannequins with some of the costumes that they wore for when they redid the Creatures of the Night era and all that. So that was kind of, it was more than just a pop-up store, but you know, to me, I look, some people love the merch, some don't. I'm somewhere in the middle of that. I got stuff that to me just was like keepsakes. Only things specific to the weekend. You know, and I'm saying weekend was a Friday, Saturday, right? I got a couple of cookies on you know, on the street when we were getting the newspapers. I did buy the tour book. I'm trying to think what else. I have a couple of shirts, but everything is a couple of the posters. They put out a poster for night 1 and night 2. I got those. But all of the things are specific to the shows themselves. You know, and that to me is the stuff that was interesting. I also did on the first night, you know, when they have like all the balloons that come out for Do You Love Me at the end. I actually caught one of the Ace Frehley balloons, or I should say Spaceman balloons, right? Not Ace Frehley balloons. I kept it. My daughter's like, no, punch it back. I'm like, no, I'm keeping this. And I did. And then somebody helped me deflate it or whatever. So I have that. But probably to some people, I went like, I think my brother's like, wow, you spent a lot of money on this stuff. But yeah, I had to have some stuff that was specific to the weekend. My brother and I also, there was a pizzeria in the city that was doing a quote unquote Kiss pizza. And you went there and it was pepperoni and spicy peppers on the pizza. And if you got that pizza, they gave you a pizza box with Kiss picture on it. So my brother and I went and we did that as well. I was like, well, I'm going to go get dinner anyway. I might as well go get a Kiss pizza, So we did that. And yeah, so it was like $60 for a pie, which was a bit egregious. But for New York City, that's probably only $10 or $20 more than it was supposed to be. So,
yeah.
We did that. And I was, like I said, I was going to get dinner anyway. So I went out of my way to go there. But yeah, look, the merch isn't for everybody. I want to just say this also, if you don't mind. I'm going to take a moment here. I ran into two people I know. Guy named Paul, guy named Patrick. So guy Paul I've known for years. The guy helped me get a Metallica show from Metallica t-shirt for my son years ago. And he gave me, like, in the Kiss Meets the Phantom movie, they have like those the things that give them their powers. The talisman, yes.
Yeah.
He made a set specifically for me. So Paul, I know you told me sometimes you watch the show. I just want to say thank you. I thought that was really cool. He literally made by hand a set of talisman for me. And a guy, Patrick, I know from overseas, I've met on the cruise. I'm a big No Doubt fan. He ran the No Doubt fan club for years. He knew I was a big No Doubt fan in the past. He gave me some
I remember you telling me that.
Yes. So I saw him last night, and he had also written a book about Kiss in Japan, 2006. I think it was 2006. And he gave me a free copy of the book. So Patrick, I know you sometimes watch the show. I just want to say thank you. I thought that was really cool of both of those guys. And it goes back to what some of this is all about for people. It's seeing these people I've known for years, talked to online, seen on cruises, never had a chance to meet some people in person. And then just some of these people actually giving me gifts, I'm going to say, was totally unexpected. And just Paul, Patrick, I just want to say thank you to both of you guys. I thought that was just beyond cool that you guys even thought of doing something like that. And I just want to make sure I say thank you to both of them.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. And one other thing, I'm just gonna, while I'm thinking of this, I took pictures. I must have taken pictures with anywhere from 50 to 100 people easily would stop me. Hey, Mike, I love the show. Hey, I love what you and Vin do. Hey, is the chemist going to be here tonight with you? People asking me all different things. Do you mind taking a picture or whatever? Anybody who took a picture with me, first off, thank you. I can't believe somebody would actually want to take a picture with me. Thank you. That's cool. PM me. I'd love to have a copy of the picture. Email me. Just get in touch with me. I'd love to have a copy of the picture because I want to make it like a scrapbook of some sort of this. And to me, that was part of the experience. And some people I said, hey, you have to send that to me. Many people just caught up in the moment. I forgot to tell them to send it to me. In fact, there's one guy, Pascal, that I know for years. We were messaging after the show the first night. I was like, oh, how cool it was. We were sitting right next to each other. It was great to see you. It was great to see you. And I say to him, hey, if I see you tomorrow, we have to take a picture together. 5 minutes later, he sends me a picture we had taken together that day.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm like, oops. But it's just like, that's how overwhelming it was. Just like how you're taking pictures, seeing people all the time. So anyway, anybody who watches the show, if you stopped me, thank you. It was so cool talking to all of you. Send me the picture. I'd love to have a copy for myself. So I just wanted to make sure I said that because it was one of the things that was on my mind the last couple of days.
Awesome.
Yeah. So just going back to the show then, and you were talking about that noodling thing that Paul and Tommy do. Now, first off, I'm sure that is done to give Gene a chance to rest. Right? What a waste of time. I don't know how else to say it. A complete waste. I turned to my daughter. I'd never thought of this before last night. I said, if they want to waste 5 minutes to give Gene a rest, I understand the guy's 74 years old. He can't stand in the boots. I get all of that. Instead of that god-awful noodling, I don't know how else to say it. How freaking cool would it be if they just traded riffs of different deep cuts from Kiss songs? Fans would love that. They don't. I don't go into a concert last night to go expecting them to play The Oath, but if Tommy starts playing the riff of The Oath for 30 seconds or 20 seconds, and then Paul starts playing the riff to Mr. Speed, and then Tommy starts playing in Two Time or whatever it is, and they're going back and forth doing stuff like that, that would have been freaking cool. That would have been really. I think the diehard fans would have been like, "Oh man, that's a cool moment." I don't know what the hell they were doing there, that noodle, and that's what a waste of time.
And you know clearly, and that's not saying anything against Paul, but you know Tommy's in a totally different league. Like,
of course,
you know, Paul's starting something and Tommy's following it. I mean, come on, you know, like Tommy can play anything. Paul, that's very clear. You know, I know that trying to be like Paul's just like improvising and just coming up with something and see if you get it. But yeah, I was kind of surprised at that one. I was like,
yeah.
what? And it went on longer than it had to, too.
Yes.
And it was very similar what Paul was playing too. It wasn't even like, oh my God, it was like oh my God, there was that little riff, that little thing was so much different. And yeah, I was really kind of surprised and a little disappointed in that because again, it's like opportunity wasted, you know, and your idea is a great idea. So
I'd never thought of it before this weekend, like I said, and they've been doing that for at least these last 50 shows, if not more. I don't remember exactly when they started. So I knew that was coming, but yeah, just riffs back and forth on some Kiss deep cut classic songs, whatever. That would have been so much more enjoyable in my opinion. But
absolutely.
But again, you know, I'm nitpicking at those types of things. And the show was what, 2 hours and 15 minutes long. And then we're talking about 3-4 minute time period over there. It's just, you know, as a Kiss fan, you're always going to want more. But again, in that moment in the show as a total, all I know is, you know, all 10 toes were ripping out of my shoes all weekend long.
Yeah,
you know, you know,
yeah.
you and I are gearing up when Deuce is in. We're doing the bass slide, and you know, and you and I doing the bass fills, and I love it loud. And you know, it doesn't matter how many times we've heard these songs. We're just it's almost like hearing them for the first time. That I felt like this weekend. So
here's my very important question.
Yes.
How did it feel last night hearing Cold Gin?
Oh man, I knew you were going to bring this up. So look, it's well documented that Cold Gin is, to me, a very average song, right? And the fact that I've heard it at, I think, every single Kiss concert, maybe except for the Dynasty tour. I don't think they did on the Dynasty tour, but I've seen them do that 1,000 times. I've seen Ace do it 1,000 times. It goes back to what I just said. In the moment, final shows, that could have been friggin' playing Great Expectations, a song I don't like, you know, and I wouldn't have cared. So yeah, they're doing Cold Gin, and I'm like, God damn, I wish this was Parasite instead, you know, or something like that. But I think you even said to me last night, I see that thumb tapping. I see the thumb tapping.
I saw it. You're lucky with thumb tapping. Oh, and also it's got that great bass line in the chorus, which you know, Gene has done. I cannot get excited. I cannot get excited about like Gene bass lines. Yeah.
Of course, absolutely no. So look, it goes back to what I'm saying. I might, when I'm sitting on my computer, when I'm talking with a friend, I might have a personal preference. Once I'm in that moment, I'm fully just engrossed in the moment. And like I said, Cold Gin might be, you know, in my bottom half of Kiss songs that I like, but I'm enjoying it as if it's the first time I'm hearing it last night. You know?
Well, I was talking to the King yesterday, who you know, a friend of ours. And I was telling him, like, the way you are, I said, when he's at a show, it's as if he's hearing it the first time. He's like a little kid again, singing all the songs, you know, and it's great, you know, and then, and being there with somebody who's so, you know, enthusiastic and like seen way more shows. And I think we saw one of our friends, Mike Brunn, and when I was introducing him to Encore, I said, how many shows? I don't remember the numbers, like 179.
Yeah, I think he's like somewhere over
crazy,
160,
you know. Yeah, whatever it is. It's like, wow, you know, that's like incredible. But I mean, man, that is something like that's fandom. That's like die hard, you know, people who give everything they have to go see a band, and you know, it's an incredible thing to be surrounded by such great Kiss fans, you know.
I wish I could remember. Like I said, I met a few hundred people over the weekend that said they watched the show, etc. One guy stopped me, I think it was in the pop-up store, saying, I love the show, I love what you guys do, blah blah blah. And I love the comment. He thanked me for how positive we are. And that it makes him happy. And you know, and I said, you know, I really appreciated that comment, because to me, look, you could be negative, and I'm going to have a few things that I'll say about the final show that I thought could have been different and disappointed me. But at the end of the day, we do this for fun, because we want it to be fun. I go to see Kiss, or any concert for that matter, because I want to have fun. If I'm not having fun, whether it's this or at a concert, I'm not going to do it. Life is too short. to be miserable is the way I feel. So if you're going to go to a Kiss concert and be miserable that they didn't do song A, B, or C, or that you don't like this, or you don't like the makeup on this guy, or that, whatever it is, don't go. It's a free world, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not liking it. You don't need to be miserable about it. So I love when somebody came up to me and says, I love how positive your show is and all of that. And that's the way I feel when I'm at a concert. If I'm going for the 80th time to see Kiss and I'm not enjoying it, I shouldn't go. And there's nothing wrong with not going then, right? But I enjoy it. So I'm there and I'm in that moment and I'm hearing Say Yeah. And I'm thinking, I love this song and I'm having the time of my life. Yes, I love I Stole Your Love More. But I don't care in that moment. I'm having fun. And that's what this is about to me. So yes, even Cold Gin, a song that I find boring, I'm there, I'm having fun. And I'm taking it in, especially last night, because I'm like, I may never hear the song again live.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I really wasn't really focusing on the set list, you know. It really kind of didn't matter at that point, you know.
Agreed.
So it took nothing away from the last night, you know, at all for me.
Yep. And I love on both shows, Paul mentioned the first time they played the Garden and that his parents were at the show and Gene's mom was at the show. I like that they kind of acknowledged that. And you know, Paul said something like, you know, look, no matter who you are in life, you want to make your parents proud. And you could sense that there was that proud moment. And it goes back to what I was saying with Evan opening up the shows, right? So here's Paul playing, you know, the Garden for whatever it is, the 15th time or whatever it is, and acknowledging his parents being there for the first show. And now he's there for the first time his son's playing the Garden, right? So there's that cool, like, full circle moment. But I just love that he brought that up about his parents and Gene's mom being at the first show they did at the Garden in 77. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, saying that, one of the things that did bother me about the two shows, and especially last night, is I just felt like Paul was too scripted. And I say Paul because he's the front guy. He's the one that does all the talking. I was shocked last night that there was zero mention of any of the other members. I figured even if it was during the encores or somewhere that there'd be acknowledgments just by name that, hey, you know, this has been a great 50-year run. We couldn't have done this without Peter and Ace and Mark and Vinny and Bruce and Eric, you know. I was shocked that those names never came out of their mouth at all. I mean, there was nothing on a screen, no mention of previous members at all. I didn't expect them to be up there performing. Did it surprise you that there was no mention whatsoever about a single other member?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's an opportunity lost.
Yeah.
You know, I think in the first time around, there was, you know, and it was hard to see where we were because there was certain things to see that main screen. Because towards the end, there was, you know, some clips of the early years and stuff like that. And I remember, I think the first time I went, there was a portion where you did see Vinny, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But there's standard clips that they've shown the entire tour.
Yeah, right. But that didn't exist last night, as far as I could see. Was there, where they showed those guys?
Yeah, I think during it might be during Cold Gin, actually, that is shown. Yeah.
I just couldn't see it. Okay, so that I missed then if they did show those guys, you know, there's some sort of visual acknowledgement, but
that's just part of the standard show that they've done for years.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing special about an acknowledgement last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that's disappointing. Like, you know, I've mentioned before, and I mentioned it on our pre-thing, I saw Kix do their final show, and they brought out previous members. They acknowledged their whole crew. They spoke to the crowd when the show ended for 10 minutes. I was surprised that Paul really did nothing, I'll say, from the heart. You know, there was that cool moment at the end of Beth where they kind of went to both sides of the stage and they were acknowledging the crowd. I love that he acknowledges his parents, but, you know, he said very close to the same thing both nights. I really thought last night there'd be some kind of like big acknowledgement of, you know, and he did before one song for like 30 seconds or a minute say something, but I was just surprised he didn't have that special moment with the fans, just really truly towards the end, thanking them for everything.
You know, I think if Gene was kind of running the show, you would have had that. You know, I think we've come to find out and that, Paul isn't much of the warm and fuzzy type. Gene has, although everybody, he came out the album title asshole, and everybody was like, oh, he looks like, but we've come to find out that Gene is more the softy, and you've seen him speak at I think it was some sort of veterans thing or something. I remember there was something where he was at the White House something. He got all emotional talking about what it was like to come to this country and how much he loves the country, how patriotic he is. Like we'd never. I mean, Paul has said certain things, but I think again, if Gene was running the show, we would have had some. And plus, we also know like Paul is not a guy who easily forgets anything if anything has been done against him. So. I think it's always going to be a struggle, for him to kind of get past certain things, or if he's been done wrong. But, the same thing as you could say for someone like Peter Criss, who could look past the fact that it's an opportunity missed, and to say and be respectful. That's what was kind of missing from the show. There was no respect, in my opinion. No matter what has been said, no matter how many times Ace says, well, if the money's right, I'll go up there. I've heard that so many times, you know? Disappointing. You don't want to hear it's all about the money for some guy. Well, we know that's the way Ace rolls, right? The fact of the matter is they're on that stage and they've done this tour and they've been around for 50 years. Ace Frehley and Peter Criss are, 2/4 or whatever it is of Kiss, and they're the guys who made this happen. No matter what you say, So and then of course I don't want to minimize. You could talk about Vinnie Vincent. You could talk about the resurgence of Kiss and the songwriting.
And I didn't expect them to read off a novel to us.
No,
but I thought during the encore we'd get this has been an incredible 50-year run. We couldn't have done this without everybody that came along for the ride with us. So I want to take a moment and just acknowledge and thank Peter, Criss, Ace Frehley. They just rattled off the names and just, give the crowd a chance to kind of cheer for each of the names or whatever. And it would have taken a minute, and I think it would have been a cool touch. But even beyond that, I was just surprised that Paul really didn't address the fans themselves. Like he did, just in his scripted ways sometimes between songs. But I thought there'd be, I'll call it a moment at the end. And they did that during Beth, where they went to both sides of the stage. Right after Beth, they went to both sides of the stage. And I thought at that moment when Paul went back to the mic, he'd speak from the heart for a minute or two and just thank the fans and what an incredible journey. But it kind of went right to script of introducing Do You Love Me? And that's, I'll say, a disappointment for me. Is I just wish at that point, Paul would have put the script in the shredder and just spoke from his heart. And I agree. And he didn't. And then that to me was a little bit of a disappointment there, to be honest. Yeah. It doesn't take away the fact that for 2 hours, I've freaking totally enjoying myself. But I felt as a fan, I wanted that moment. I wanted him to go off script, even if it was a predetermined script of his own, where he said, I'm going to just say this. I expected to hear something, and I got almost pretty much nothing there instead. And that even says, why couldn't Gene have spoken for 30 seconds? Of course. Gene is always a guy who always, thanks to fans or whatever. But agreed. I mean, I didn't walk out of there at that moment, when the show was over, thinking about any of these things, quite honest. Now when you look back, again, I don't want to say it took away from the show. No. But it is disappointing in the sense, because it was something that just should have been done. Right. And I feel bad. It didn't take away from me enjoying the night, but as I was on the train going home, I'm like, they didn't do that. They should have. Yeah. And I feel bad more so for anybody, for a guy like Bruce Culich, who has been, an ambassador for the band. And, you could understand, if, Peter Criss or Ace Frehley, if they really dig deep, they'll realize that, what, we kind of, in some ways we fucked up, or we, when we were back with them, and we all know the stories. I want to drudge that through. You can understand, but Bruce has never done anything bad. I mean, I remember another specific memory when we went to the Kiss Expo in Indianapolis, and it was Paul's book signing, and Tommy was there, and Bruce was there, and I remember Bruce. I think he was talking to, I don't know if it was his wife then, and I was wondering what Bruce was thinking, like. Because he's not in the band anymore, but he's like, was he sort of like jealous or envious or whatever? And if we come to know that Bruce has always said like, I'm totally happy, and I always was like, is he really, really being truthful there?
Grand Funk Railroad, Kiss. Come on. I mean, not to put down Grand Funk Railroad.
No disrespect to Grand Funk, who's had an amazing career themselves.
Not at all. That being said, with Bruce saying what he says, still doing what he does, he seems like, for everything I've ever seen, it's just a really good, honest guy. He's done things for the fans, and talking about his albums that he played on, and giving you some history of them, dig deep about the history of making the albums or whatever, what guitars he used. He's some of it's for his benefit, of course, if he's trying to sell his guitars or whatever, but it's still selling the Kiss product. Let's face facts, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So yeah, I think out of everybody, even this, I just thought of it just now, like, Eric Carr. How could you not mention Eric Carr?
Exactly.
This is the last show. This man died, and I don't want to be morbid here. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to, but there should have been some sort of, this is it. This is the last show. I'd like to thank this. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. So I guess I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. To me, and it's like I said, it's kind of like a two-pronged thing. Previous band members' acknowledgement, and just a heartfelt comments and speech with the fans for a moment. So to me, it was a lost opportunity on both fronts. Right? Like you said, Paul may not want to give that acknowledgement to the previous members. So let's put that part to the side. You still have to do some kind of heartfelt commentary that's not scripted to the fans at the end. To me, that was a lost thing. That was a disappointment. So let me ask you this then, related to that. Rock and Roll Nights ends in. Tommy, Gene are going around on their lifts like they do. They come back to the stage, and to my knowledge, is the first time I've seen them do this on the tour. As the song is ending, Tommy, Gene, and Paul all raise up on their own like parts of the stage. I've never seen all three of them on separate parts of the stage raise up. Paul's breaking the guitar up on like a rafter that's raised. The three of them are up there. Obviously, Eric Singer's up on the drums. Then they start to lower down. The song's coming. It's like 99.9% done. It's coming down. You hear Paul Stanley saying, "Thank you, good night," whatever he's saying. And then a huge thing of smoke comes up on the stage, and you can't even see them at all. Like the stage is covered with smoke. And next thing you know, there's this avatar type thing that's on screens. And Kiss is gone. They're off the stage. You don't even ever actually see them leave the stage. And all of a sudden, these avatars are appearing. At first, I noticed them on the screens by the stage. And then I noticed, maybe you or my daughter pointed out, I don't know, that there were like screens that had kind of got erected super quickly in the stand, like in where the fans were. And there's stuff being shown there also. And honestly, at that moment, I'm thinking, what's this? What's this going on? After a few moments, I kind of pieced together what's happening. But what's your thoughts on that moment at the end of the concert?
I really thought that was cool. It's almost like, because of what they're trying to do, and we'll get to, right? Like, how do you make that transition, right? It's like they're there, and all of a sudden there's a smoke, and then they're gone, and then there's this avatar, whatever this thing is going to be. Visually, the whole thing was cool, I thought. And God Gave Rock and Roll starts going, and they had the colors of the iconic colors, the purple, the green, the blue, and the red on the stage, which was fucking awesome. Like, I was really like kind of surprised on that whole thing. That was like one thing I wasn't expecting,
Of course, yeah, I don't think anybody was.
Yeah, and so I actually did enjoy that. Did I want to see them waving to the fans and leaving the stage? Would that have, from an emotional standpoint, made it worse? Probably. You know what I mean? They almost relieved me from seeing them leave.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that's why I liked it, because as you just don't want to see somebody pass, you don't want to visually see that's the last time them walking off the stage. It's like, almost in some ways, I hate to say it, or maybe I don't hate to say it, was almost like perfect. Like they were there, your idols, and then all of a sudden, smoke, and now it's like this new thing that they're trying to do and bring in. I think it was I think it was kind of brilliant in a ways, you know?
So I'll say this, and right, you and I had not spoke about this at all. This is
Mm-hmm.
the first I'm hearing your opinion on it.
Yeah.
I felt cheated not seeing them. I don't want to say walk off the stage, but the concert was not 100% over and they disappeared. I
Yeah.
felt a little cheated. Saying that, I agree with you 1,000%. Man, when you were there in person, the way that was pulled off
Mm-hmm.
was done incredibly well.
Yeah.
I mean, they really pulled that whole, the visual and the whole scene of it. First off, as I come to learn since then, the whole, like the avatars and all of that is being done by Industrial Lights and Magic, George Lucas's company,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you know it's not going to be bad. That's number one,
Mm-hmm.
right? You might have opinions on what it looks like, but that's a world-class company that's working on this, right? I wish for the concert, the way they executed that was brilliant, like you just said.
Mm-hmm.
I can't argue with that. I wish the show would have ended. The four of them would have been on the stage, taking a bow together, maybe make an acknowledgement, like I said, and then the smoke comes up and they disappear.
Mm.
And so you could have done it the same way, but maybe 90 seconds or 2 minutes later, right? So I wanted that acknowledgement at the end. I just felt like Rock and Roll All Night, the last notes of Rock and Roll All Night were playing, and all of a sudden the band was gone. So I would have just pushed that whole thing out 2 minutes. They could have still been on the stage. I didn't have to see them physically walking off, but I just wish I saw a bow at the end. It's just something that's what I wanted. But I was glad to hear you say like the way they pulled it off, because being there in person, it was a while. Look, it's an ending of a show I'm never going to forget, right? It was definitely a little bit of a while. And I have to ask, I didn't ask my daughter what she thought about that. We really didn't talk about it on the train list, and I have to ask her what she thought about. I know a lot of people online, myself included, are saying the Avatar things are not for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. I 100% get that. I don't know what your thoughts are, and we'll get to that in a moment. But here's my thing, as I've learned. ABBA did a tour like this last year. Sold 1.9 million tickets.
Mm-hmm.
There's a market for this. I think the thing is, the market is not you and I. The market is not Mike Brunn, who's seen Kiss 160 times, right? The market is not us fans that are in our 50s and 60s that have seen Kiss dozens of times. The market is that 3-year-old right now that never saw the band, the kid who's not born 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the kids who embrace this type of technology potentially will embrace this. Because if ABBA could sell 1.9 million tickets doing something like this, I'm sure so could Kiss. We're not the market audience for this. My only opinion is, if Kiss tries to do this a year or two from now, I think it fails miserably.
Well, that's the thing with ABBA. They haven't toured, they haven't played in so many years, so that's why people want to see that experience. Kiss has been doing this for years, so
exactly.
I don't think it's going to be, like, to your point of what you just said.
I think 20 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe, when you have kids that are very young right now that even if they went to a concert were probably too young to experience, but most likely didn't go. Kids who are just being born, kids who embrace technology. Yes, in the future, maybe this could work, right? I mean, there seems to be some proof that it might be able to. To ask a bunch of 50-year-olds who grew up with Kiss and seen them dozens of times, it's not going to work for us. But we are not the target audience. If they try to make us the target audience, I think this fails.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I think in the promo little video that I did watch, there was like two, it was cool. They had the not the barcode, the QR code on the screen to find out more, and it was like an hour. So even that was cool. Wait an hour, and you went to the site. One of the things that they say on that is that, and it's one thing you've heard, is like the band is bigger than the four of us. You know what I mean, so to speak, and it deserves to go on because of the fans or whatever. And I agree with all that. What they're doing should be done, in my opinion. Whether you look at this technology as fake or whatever, this and that, in some ways the band should still be celebrated. It should still be, people should still get to experience what the music of Kiss. It's not going to be the original four, or even the two original and the two newer members who've been around for multiple decades, as you said. But in the end, it's the music, it's a product. There's reasons why you could see there's all these other kind of experiences, whether, I think there may be like a Doors type of thing with Jim Morrison, whoever it is, you know what I mean? Why, these things exist, and there is a market for it. But yeah, maybe not quite now, to your point, but I really do think they're doing the right move. And one of the things I thought about, if you saw the video, when you saw they had all the things on them when they were trying to, do all this stuff, and I'm thinking, wow, it's like, that is not Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. So all the moves, and this is what I was trying to say earlier, and I said I'll get to it.
Yes.
Where they become more of the face of Kiss than Peter Criss, because even the avatars themselves look more like Tommy.
Agreed.
Actually, they are Tommy and Eric. It's not Ace and Peter. And I'm sure even them thinking like, oh my God, like, and for years, I mean, they've changed, anything they've done that's not true pictures of them, photo, to look more like, the Spaceman, not Ace Frehley, or the Catman, not Peter Criss, So I think I'm not going to go back on what I said as far as, I agree with you. I think it would have been sort of cool at some sort of point to do that. But man, when Rock and Roll Night's ending and then they're going down and then the fucking smoke, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Did somebody press a button for too long? And then the way it ended, I was like, wow, So yeah, it was a good way, in my opinion, to end the show.
I love that you have that opinion. So we're a little bit different, but that to me is what makes this cool. I know when I was on the train ride, while we didn't talk details about it, I said to my daughter, I don't see me ever going to see these Avatar Kiss, but I'm not the target audience. And she's like, oh, you'll go one time, you'll be curious. And I was like, I don't know, but maybe 10 years from now, if technology is such and it's something that, who knows? A friend of mine texted me last night, because with Industrial Lights and Magic doing this, there's been a few rumors that Disney is going to buy Kiss. And there's been rumors that Kiss is trying to sell their likeness and all of that. So a friend of mine texted me last night, and in the Disney parks, there's a ride, an Avatar ride for their movie, right? And Disney's never going to change that, because I'm not about to suggest they're going to. But my friend was like, oh, what do you think of that? I was like, I don't like the whole Avatar thing. And then she was like, but what if they change the Avatar ride in Disney to Kiss? And I said, I'll be on it in a heartbeat. I'm not trying to be a fake here and a hypocrite. I would go on that ride, and I'd probably go on 20 times in a row. If they did it with, Kiss music and all of that, I would absolutely love that. I just don't know that I love the idea of going to a concert with cartoon characters on a screen somewhere. But look, maybe 10 years from now, I'll totally change my opinion on this. Who the hell knows? Maybe I'm just too old to visualize what other people are already visualizing. I don't know.
I think only curiosity might get me there, but honestly, I don't really have a desire to see it that way.
And that's what my daughter said on the train. She goes, "You'll go at least one time just out of curiosity."
Yeah.
And that's where I'll be curious if ABBA does another one of these tours. I said they sold almost 2 million tickets. If they did another one, would they sell 100,000 tickets, or would they sell 2 million again?
Right.
Was it a curiosity thing? And now people are like, all right, I've been to that once, I'll never do that again. Yeah. That will tell you if this type of thing has legs to it.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I read something last night that said like Kiss might do this in like the next 2-3 years. I just think that's too soon. And I'm hoping I was hoping Gene would do solo shows starting next year. I'm hoping that this Avatar thing doesn't put a damper on. You don't want to be, if they're thinking, hey, we could do Avatar tour in 2 years, you don't necessarily want Gene out on tour playing the same songs or some of the same songs. That'll take away from it. So I'm hoping that the Avatar thing doesn't take away from the possibility of having a solo show. Gene. We'll see.
What I'm hoping that will eventually come out in servers, or maybe it's too private, I would love to see that moment when they did leave the stage, if they got them on camera, seeing them leave, and what it was like back there, how Gene and Paul especially were like,
I heard, and I haven't seen it, right? So we were at the show. I heard on the pay-per-view, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, Gene did an interview after the show, Paul did not. Again, Paul could be with his family.
Hence to what I said before.
Yes.
Paul, not the warm and fuzzy, Gene the warm and fuzzy,
Yes.
So, or it could have been something.
Paul could have been with his wife and kids. He had a son there, obviously. Well, maybe, look, Yes, I agree with you. Paul's not warm and fuzzy. Gene seems to be. Maybe Paul just felt too emotional, didn't want to do an interview right there.
And
we
I would
don't know.
respect that. I
Right.
would respect that,
Right.
but I would
But
just
we're
love to
speculating
know.
based on what we know, right?
Right. I would just love to know what that was like for those two guys, especially,
Agreed.
So.
Agreed. Now, I didn't notice this. I don't know if you saw this online here. Apparently last night when people were leaving the Garden, they got a golden ticket. Did you hear about that?
Yes, because one of our mutual friends was going, I can't believe
Yes.
I get this. Was everybody supposed to get this? He was fuming. I was like, oh my God. He was showing me a picture of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What was that all about?
You know what? I had no clue. I don't think anybody knew that they were going to hand these out at the end. When I was getting onto the Long Island Railroad in Penn Station, everybody like kind of funnels into one doorway. And as we're funneling in, I see a guy holding 3 boxes that look, fancy. It's got the KISS logo on it. And I'm like, I wonder what that is. And I thought, oh, he must have been a VIP. That must be a VIP gift or whatever. So that's all cool. I almost asked him, but the timing of like all of us funneling into like a staircase, it wasn't like the appropriate time to start talking to somebody about it. But I did notice it and never thought about it again. I just figured it's a VIP gift. I know people paid for VIP tickets. Good for them. They got another gift. Then I get home and I see the pictures online. I'm like, wait, they were handing these out to everybody? I didn't see anybody getting them at all.
I didn't see it either.
And that was the baffling part to me. It's one thing if you saw like a huge crowd of people and you say, I forget, I'm not going to go into that crowd. I never saw where there was even an opportunity to get one of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And from everything I gather, the problem with handing these out didn't fall to KISS. It fell on MSG's responsibility. Although to me, if it's a KISS product, it's the same thing as the Dubai thing. And KISS bears some responsibility in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame because, like you said, that you saw one mutual friend we have, but I've seen a couple of dozen people be really upset and angry that they didn't get theirs. Well, they said they saw other people have 9 or 10 of them at once. And that to me is disappointing. It's sad that the people who were there and had, I think, overwhelmingly a great experience, that people could feel cheated that they didn't get something at the end. That's a lot different to me than you didn't want to wait online for merch, so you did. Right. Yeah. That's a personal choice. This was something handed out at least to some people and not others. And I feel bad that some people feel cheated, that they missed out on something. I found somebody that says he has 2 and maybe I could work out some kind of trade, financial or otherwise.
You'll get one. I know you. You'll have one.
Well, my daughter wanted one also. She's like, how can we not have these? We were at the 2 final shows, blah, blah, blah. And I quickly looked on eBay and there were 400, 500, 600. I shut that as a matter. There's no way
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, there's no way I'm getting something like that for this $500-600. So apparently they were selling them on the pay-per-view thing for $350.
Really?
Yeah, that's what. Again, I don't know. I wasn't watching pay-per-view, right? We were there.
Yeah.
But I heard that they said they had like 900, 950, whatever it was, for sale for $350 a piece.
So a thing they're giving away, they were selling for $350 on a pay-per-view. Is that what you're telling me?
That's what I read. Again, don't quote me. I could only go by what I read. I was at the show.
Egregious.
I was at the show, and this is a mere 12 hours or so since the show ended. So I don't know, but that's what I read online. Right. And then most of those 12 hours I spent sleeping, not reading about Golden KISS tickets. So, but that's what I read online. Yeah. So, but it's a shame that people have to I'm not criticizing people for feeling this way. I'm criticizing the way that this was done. If they wanted to hand out something like this, they could have done it as you walked in, scan your ticket, hand you a golden ticket, scan your ticket, hand you a golden ticket. That's where you scan a ticket, everybody's getting their 1. Nobody's walking out with 10 or 12. For me, it's not going to change the enjoyment I had of the weekend. Not one bit. I agree. If I can get one, that would be great. If I find somebody who has one today and I go meet them somewhere in the city or whatever, I'll go. But it's not going to change my experience, not one bit. Especially not for you, right? You didn't even care if you bought a T-shirt or a tour book. So
no. Yeah.
Is there anything else about the show or just the overall experience that we're forgetting to talk about that you thought of during the night?
Besides Gene singing the wrong verse and Deuce. Classic. Last time I do a Deuce, he's singing this. Great.
That's
He's
great.
singing
Yeah.
the second. He's singing the second verse.
Yep,
Classic
song he's
Gene.
done thousands of times, and for the last night, yep, he mixes it up. That's what that's life. And then look, Kiss has got criticism for using tapes and all of that. To me, this is why I like live music. You know, this shit happens sometimes. Yeah, but that was funny.
Yeah.
We looked at each other like, wait a second here. Did he just, I was just like, just don't let the song go off the tracks. That's it. You know, because Gene could do that way. He could all of a sudden start singing the chorus when it's still the verse. I'm like, just make sure and he did. He got right back on track. He probably looked at the teleprompter and got back on. But for a split second, I was like, oh, don't just totally butcher this. I don't mind you sing a couple lines wrong, but just don't butcher this right now. But yeah, that was a funny moment.
Yeah. But other than that, I think we covered pretty much everything, you know. I'm very happy I was there. We're very, very, and I may have said at the first show we did, the pre-show that we did, you know, we're very, very lucky that it's in our hometown, that we didn't have to travel. Yeah, fucking sucked driving there. But then again, I didn't have to get on a plane to an airport to this or another country, you know. So, you know what, let me not complain too much for those people who had to really travel, you know what I mean? So I take back all my complaints about that. You know,
I know people who traveled from Australia, tons of people from Europe, right? There's people that came from all over the world and spent boatloads of money. There's people just from all over the United States as well, right? So, you know, we were blessed. I had a few people say to me, "Hey, Mike, you know, where are you staying after the show tonight? You know, on the first night?" And I'd be like, "My house." They're like, "Really?" Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah." Now I get on a train right underneath Madison Square Garden, and an hour from now I'll be back in my house. So. Yeah, from that point, you're absolutely right. I feel completely, totally blessed that this was in our backyard. We were able to do this. I would have been there even if it was in Australia. I'm sure I would have been there. But it sure as hell was a lot easier to get on a railroad or drive to the city like you did, you know. And it gave me the opportunity to kind of have all the experience. You know, I did the Madison Square Garden tour. I was able to see them setting up the stage before the first show and all of that. It just, I feel blessed. That's just the best word to use. I feel blessed that I was able to do all of these experiences, be at these final shows. Were there things I would have changed? Yeah, I would have changed a few things. But the one thing I would not change is being there. I would never change, say, no, I wish I didn't go. Not a chance in the world. You know, for me, I don't want to say it was a 10 out of 10. It was like a 9.8 out of 10 because there's a few things I would have changed. But damn, I'm so glad I was there.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. And like I said, I didn't walk out of that building disappointed. I didn't even think of, now we're kind of analyzing the whole night and you start finding things. But like, you know, I certainly walked out of there very happy. And, you know, it's a night I'm never going to forget.
And every single person I saw had a huge smile on their face walking out of that place. Nobody was saying, oh, but they didn't play Strata.
Yeah,
everybody was saying what a freaking great night this was, you and I included. You know, it's easy to kind of Monday morning quarterback on a computer talking about this stuff. When you were there, everybody, ourselves included, had a great time.
And I'd like to give personal thanks to you because, you know, you did call me before the show and said you had this opportunity to upgrade seats and you know, it wasn't cheap, you know what I mean, to do it. And when I got off the phone with you, I said to my girl, what was that? I said, oh, you know, Mike's got an opportunity. And I said, selfishly, I hope he doesn't do it because, again, you and I were friends we've documented, 47 years. Yeah. I wanted to be there next to you, you know, and I would have been, and sorry, Courtney, you know what I mean? I definitely would have been, it wouldn't have been the same. I'm just going to say that, you know. I agree.
Well, that's why I called you. And I told you that's why I called you, because if you were like, yeah, let's get a better seat. But you know what? You and I got caught up in the moment while I was at the garden. This is like literally an hour before gates opened for the show last night. And there was an opportunity to be in the 100s. You and I were all the way up in the 300s. But then after we hung up and you'd said something to me when I was on the phone asking if you wanted to upgrade the tickets, you had said, you know, we had this conversation about wanting to kind of be able to take it all in, not from a distance, but from like a higher up where, and when I hung up with you, even though my daughter was still like, oh, you should have done it. You should have done it. Screw Vinny. She didn't really say that, but, you know,
right. So I would understand.
I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But then I was also like, no, but I did want that opportunity. I did not want to be front row last night. That if you would have told me you have a front row seat or you could sit further up, I would have chosen further up because I wanted that feeling of taking it all in. And there were times during the show that I wasn't even necessarily watching the band. Like they're doing Shout Out Loud, and I'm just like kind of to my left looking at the crowd and the arms up in the air and the bracelets blinking and just taking in the whole experience. And that's what you don't get when you're on a computer, right? And you know, I'm not criticizing people who weren't there, but I wanted that experience of seeing that enjoyment with 15,000 fans for the last time. And I actually, you know, I said to Courtney on the drive, on the train ride home, I said, I am so glad we didn't change our tickets, besides the fact that, yes, I wanted to sit with you and you didn't want to change. But in that moment, I got caught up. I could have a much better seat, forgetting part of what I wanted to have from last night. And
that's why I kind of gently gave you that reminder.
Yes,
it's like, you remember what we talked about? Yeah.
And honestly, with the exception of that, you know, they have the bombs that they use at the end of the show where Tommy and Gene go out into the crowd that was hanging over stage that didn't block our view, but it was in our eye, you know. Besides that, the view was freaking great, you know. You could see the band very good. And I could just see the whole crowd. When Paul was on his own stage doing Love Gun and I Was Made for Loving You, you could really take in the crowd around him. You could see the excitement of the people in the back of the arena and the excitement they had. I will say to you, thank you for not saying yes to change your tickets, because I might have been like, oh, I would have been excited to have a better seat, but I lost sight in that moment of part of what I wanted to do last night. And even my daughter said afterwards, she's like, those are really good seats. We were able to kind of lean on the glass in front of us, have no heads. I mean, we had a nice clear view, no heads, no arms, nothing in the way.
And I don't know if you saw our post from, you know, my good friend Billy and his girlfriend Lisa. She posted like, you know, I'll be nice and like, look at these knuckleheads in front of us who, you know, who blocking our view, and she was pissed off. You know, I don't know what they were doing, but she posted a Facebook thing, and we didn't have that. We literally like, we were just like hovering over that chase, whatever they call it, the chase deck,
the chase bridge,
the chase bridge, whatever. Was really cool. And I even commented to you, I was like, do you realize how good this sounds from up here? We're basically, you would almost touch the ceiling. I remember back in the day, you'd go up there, you'd hear like, it just sounded muffled, but the sound was so direct and clean and clear. Like the improvements they've made in sound in arenas, you know, I remember that was the thing when I saw McCartney at MetLife Stadium, and I was all the way up. It was just, it lost the sound of there because you have that open, you know, sky, you know, and the sound just goes, you know. But like the sound was perfect. It was like no missing anything, you know. So I was very happy.
And the ironic, the funny thing with the Chase Bridge there in Madison Square Garden, and it was the first time I ever sat up there for a concert. You know, I knew that those seats were desirable to people, and it has like up there, it almost had like a little bit of like a VIP type feel to it, right? The carpeted floors. It just like it had a really nice, elegant feel to it. But also, I'm sure you noticed this, the bridge itself is. So like, it's not like it's the 300s, it's higher up, but it's actually pushed out into the crowd. So as you're walking along the area, first off, there's only 3 rows of seats there, and 2 rows of seats, and then like a table with chairs on it. So 3 rows in total. But if you look behind you, is like 15 rows of the 200s.
Right, right. Yeah.
Which is, so you're like really like out in the crowd a lot more, so you're much closer to the stage. It's just
like more of a bird's eye view, as they would say.
It was really a unique feel. So to me, it was kind of like neat that the first time I was ever on the Chase Bridge was also my last Kiss concert. I had that experience that I could watch everything and take it all in exactly like I wanted. So I said it before, I'll say it again. Thank you for not giving into peer pressure. You want to update the tickets? Come on, I can do it right now. I'm standing in front of the box office. And you're like, I don't know about that. And I hung up, and like 10 minutes later, I said to Courtney, I was like, I'm glad he said not to do that.
Yeah.
I'm glad. So no regrets. That's no regrets.
Good. I'm glad
I was the Ace Frehley of the evening.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
You see what I did there. But I think that's it. You know, I had a few people say to me, you'll get a kick out of this probably, that Mike, you know, with Kiss over, you and Vin better continue doing podcasts, because that'll be my Kiss fix. I was like, wow, okay, really? That's interesting. Yeah, I had a few people that do different websites, whatever, say, hey, Mike, we got to do a podcast together, whatever. So I'm sure there's going to be lots of Kiss news in the months ahead. And I'm sure this Avatar thing, I'm hoping they do things with music and CDs. I personally hope they don't sell the brands. I understand why they may, but I hope there's more box sets. like Paul Stanley said, I think last night, this is the end of one road and the beginning of another. And I know he was referencing the avatars, but I'm hoping there's still a lot more music and things like that we could listen to and celebrate. This is the end of the live entity, but hopefully there's still music. And if not, look, we've got, whatever it is, 30 albums and all different. I got tons of bootlegs and all that stuff. I could listen to Kiss. I could listen to something different from Kiss every day from today till the day I die, probably, between all the bootlegs and everything. So, this is not the end, but it'll be interesting to see what comes in the weeks and months ahead.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure we will do shows like this. We'll do look back episodes of the albums. Maybe a year from now we'll get on. We'll talk about the final show, and if our opinion has changed or whatever, you and I aren't going to go anywhere.
To your point, we're not going anywhere. So, and we'll
always. And I promise
content.
this: we're not going to have avatars of ourselves in 2024 either.
Well, the money's right, and somebody offers that to us.
Oh, okay, fair enough. If George Lucas wants to make avatars of us, and then if I can't get you on the show, just bring an avatar in.
Yeah.
AI can answer the questions. We'll have a conversation.
Yeah.
Oh man, who knows? But anyway, buddy, I'm so glad we got to do the last show together.
Same here.
And, I do believe, especially now that they're doing this avatar thing, I do believe this really was the last show. It'll be interesting to see if they try to pull something else off, either non-makeup. Somebody was saying to me last night, "Oh, you think maybe they'll do the Sphere in Vegas?" I was like, "No way." Think about this. They could barely sell out 2 nights at the Garden in makeup as final shows. There's no way they're selling out that place in Vegas for multiple weeks at a time without makeup. It's just, it's and everybody agreed. We were just kind of like spitballing ridiculous ideas, I truly think, based on the way the show ended last night, that was the end of Kiss in live performances.
I agree.
Time will tell.
Only time.
Well, I knew that. As soon as I said it, I'm getting some Asia. I'm getting some Asia. So, all right, buddy. Well, until the next time we do this, everybody, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Again, I appreciated everybody coming up to me for the last few days. If you took a picture with me, send it to me. I'd love to have a copy for my own collection here. And just for everybody who came up to me during the few days, thank you for everything. Thank you for all the kind words. You guys are wonderful. I hope everybody gets home safely from their travels. And while this is the end of the touring, hopefully it's not the end of seeing some of you guys. And we will be back with another show much sooner than Kiss will, that's for sure, you and I. All right, everybody. On that note, we'll go with the Gene at the end. Oh yeah!
You got to do the thing with
the thumbs.
I think. All right.
Oh yeah! All right. Later, everybody.
All right, later.
All righty, there you have it. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody who took some time out, said hello to me, took some pictures, or even just chatted for a few moments. You guys really, really enhanced my experience this past weekend, and I really loved chatting and meeting with many of you guys. Thanks so much for making it a special weekend for me. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments on what did you think of the final shows, what do you think of the Kiss avatars, and anything else that went on during the weekend. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.